Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Megan Lapp. I'm a former member of the Rhode Island Fishermen's Advisory Board, or FAB, and I represent Seafreeze, a Rhode Island commercial fishing company. We have first, second, third, and fourth generation U.S. commercial fishermen, both on our boats and those we service. And I have fought for over a decade to protect their commercial fishing grounds from offshore wind development and ensure that they and future generations will continue to be allowed to feed America and the world. I participated in the Rhode Island Ocean SAMP process for Revolution Wind, as well as Vineyard Wind, South Fork Wind, and Sunrise Wind, whether as a member of the public or later as a member of the FAB. I also participated in more federal BOEM meetings, phone calls, and written comment periods than I can count for these as well as other offshore wind projects. Empire Wind, South Coast Wind, New England Wind, New York Bight, Central Atlantic, and others. We in the fishing industry were ignored at every step of the way, not only by the federal government, but also by our own state. As members of the FAB, we were told by state employees that their job was to approve wind permits. That's not true. Their job was to ensure that any approvals issued were in compliance with state regulation, which they were not. I watched as FAB and fishing industry members were disrespected by Rhode Island CRMC council members and wind developer attorneys at every meeting, as even peer-reviewed scientific information we presented was deemed merely anecdotal, and any developer assertion to the contrary was adopted with zero scrutiny. Our state officials didn't fight for our right to survival, but the Trump administration just did. Revolution Wind was allowed to bulldoze thousands of boulders from Cox's Ledge, an area designated by NOAA Fisheries as a habitat area of particular concern, and an area the Rhode Island Ocean SAMP was supposed to protect as off-limits to wind development. National Marine Fisheries Service determined that Revolution Wind would result in significant adverse impact to managed fisheries species and their designated essential fish habitat, and pose a high risk of population-level impacts to Atlantic cod. Despite this impact to a national food source, the Rhode Island CRMC and Biden administration approved the project anyway. The USDA just banned industrial wind projects on prime U.S. farmland. Commercial fishing grounds deserve the same treatment. During his confirmation hearing, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick stated multiple times that our U.S. fishermen had been disrespected by foreign nations. He was right. The developer of Revolution Wind is majority owned by the Danish government, which has been building multiple projects on U.S. fishing grounds without caring that U.S. fishermen are the collateral damage. I have one thing to say to the Danish government: get out of my country. And I have one thing to say to the U.S. government: save our fishing grounds from offshore wind. All of them. You've started with Revolution Wind, and for that we are grateful. Now go down the list, because it's long, and you are our only chance. We cannot lose the Atlantic. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, and good morning. I am attorney Marissa Desautel. My office represents the East Farm Commercial Fisheries Center and just some of the many Rhode Island fishers. On August 20th, we filed a legal petition with the Department of the Interior. That petition addressed 3 projects: Revolution Wind, South Coast Wind, and South Fork Wind. The petition set out clear violations of federal law, including the Outer Continental Shelf Lands Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, and the Clean Water Act. As you know, BOEM has now issued a stop work order for Revolution Wind. We applaud the BOEM decision. It is a great step forward. We would expect the same legal framework to apply to all wind projects. Importantly, this week the Department of Interior also reached out to my office to schedule a meeting with us and Rhode Island fishermen. That shows the federal government is not only taking these legal issues seriously, but also taking steps to ensure fishermen's voices are included in the process going forward. This decision comes after years of tireless work by my clients to inform decision makers about wind developments like this and the substantial harms involved. We are grateful for the decision and the ongoing willingness of decision makers to hear our clients' concerns. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm attorney Karen Browning, Desautel Browning Law. On behalf of my clients, we applaud the decision by the department. Our clients have worked tirelessly for years to inform decision makers and the public about the unmitigated risks of large-scale development projects like this at sea. As in all commercial development, there is a permitting process, rules and regulations that must be adhered to. When projects get a free pass to approval, that process should always be reviewed by a higher authority. Thank you.
I think that's all we have in an official capacity. We're happy to answer questions if you have any.
Just wondering about why you think they issued a stop work order for Revolution Wind. They're letting Southport still operate in the same area of waters. Vineyard Wind is continuing, Empire Wind is continuing. What do you think the sort of policy here is?
Well, I think that this is part of the secretarial order that was issued on July 29th from the Department of the Interior. They are reviewing all projects with open lawsuits. And they are going to re-review the permits and the construction and operations plans that were approved by the Biden administration and see if they were in compliance with the law in various respects. I sincerely hope that this is the first of many. There are other projects with permits open. There are projects under construction. There are leases approved. So we have yet to see when that period for that secretarial order, it's a 45-day review period that ends in September. So I think that probably mid-September, we are going to see, potentially more statements and more action by the Department of the Interior. But we're just going to have to see on that and see what the outcome of that order is.
So these projects have sort of been pitched as, response to climate change. And we've seen a lot of, shift of fish populations around here because of warm waters and other impacts. If offshore wind isn't the answer, what do you think the answer is to climate change? Are you guys concerned about that? What do you think the solution is to find offshore wind?
Well, I think that the public has been just largely misled on the impacts of offshore wind to climate change. The U.S. government's own documents say that it will not cause an impact to climate change. So these projects are very, very small compared to, the overall emissions, and they're not going to even make a dent. So then the question becomes, why would we industrialize our oceans, which is really some of the more pristine, it's the only pristine area that we have left that has not been industrialized. Why would we do that? And actually, these projects are known and scientifically proven to cause localized climate change because they suck the wind out of the air, they prevent ocean mixing, and also, for say example, the Sunrise Wind project, which is just south of the Revolution Wind project. That project has an offshore open loop cooling system that will dump 8 to 10 million gallons of 90-degree effluent that has been treated with chlorinated compounds into the ocean every day. Those types of systems are now illegal on land. Why would we put that in the ocean? That's going to cause warming in the ocean. And other projects have those as well. So I think that the real problem is that the public has been misled. These projects are not going to impact climate change in any way. They will impact the ocean in a negative way and increase ocean warming and impact the stratification of the water column in the ocean, which is very detrimental to many species. So the question is, industrializing literally millions of acres, there's millions and millions of acres that have been leased and planned for offshore wind development. Why would we do that if we can maybe, do something that has a much, much smaller footprint, on land? And I think actually the USDA's recent move to say we are not going to site renewable energy facilities on our farmland because we need to protect our national food sources, that is very, very applicable here. To your point about species, the Northeast Fisheries Science Center actually did a scientific publication to look at which species would be impacted beneficially by climate change and which would be impacted negatively. One of the species as projected to be a climate change winner is squid. That is what this port runs on. And on many, many squid grounds, offshore wind leases have been sited. So you're going to destroy the species and the fisheries that are doing well for a project that's not going to impact climate change. And those are the facts. And I don't think that the public has really been given the facts in this entire process, unfortunately.
Project that's in sort of prime fishing grounds in your head is the one that's
Well, like I said, we are sincerely hoping. My company sued on Vineyard Wind. We took it all the way to the Court of Appeals, and we have submitted an administrative petition to the Trump administration for a rescinding of that project. And again, we're just going to have to see where that lands at the end of this, 45-day period. Nobody really knows. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Nice job.
All right. Thank you.
Grab you real quick. It just looks better with like framing and everything.
Yeah.
And then we can ask some questions instead of just the back and forth up here. It just tends to look better.
Yep.
Thank
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
That's still on hold. Over there.
You in the corner?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, guys.
Well, why don't we go here? Fifth house. I'll have Think about it. If they don't go like David, look at the 300 to 800. They don't want to go.
Are they bad?
No. No. So the whole climate argument and limiting winter, burning is right there. No.
Well, so I guess you got to look at it like what's the alternative, right? So you guys built things out.
So we import Canadian hydropower.
That's
right there and already exists.
I think that's if they've got plans for Canadian hydro failed for decades. I mean, I think it's a great. I agree. It's a great idea, right?
They say, oh, we've got the drainage. Well, wait a minute.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to argue. Go on.
Yeah, every single business direction. There's one up at URI, up at the big cancer. I've been there for my entire life.